Before you start, you'll need some polymer clay. I'm using Fimo because it's what I already have, but you can use another brand if you prefer. First, decide what the base shape of your bead will be. I'm making this one look like a vine plant type thing, but you can keep it simple if you want. If you're using a different base, feel free to skip ahead to 245 when I start making the first rows. Now the clay is nice and soft, I can start rolling it into a long worm shape. When I've got the size and thickness that I'm happy with, I'll carefully wind it around a pencil. I want it to look quite uneven and organic like a real vine, so I'm trying not to be too precise with this part. Be aware that the colour of the pencil might affect the clay, so some people like to cover the pencil in masking tape before this step. I'm going to add a few smaller vines onto the main one to give it a bit of an overgrown look, so I'm just rolling out some clay like before, only this time much smaller. After deciding on the placement, I'm just using a cocktail stick to flatten down the edges I can't reach. Again, I want it to have quite an untidy, organic feel to it, so I'm making sure it doesn't look too much like a pattern, just doing random squiggles here and there. After I've added all the smaller vines on, now it's time to start making the first rows. I learned this technique from a tutorial about how to make fondant roses, so I'll link that video in the description if you want to check it out. It's the exact same technique, just on a smaller scale. Cut off several tiny pieces of clay and flatten them to make the petals. You'll need about 10 in total, and make sure they range slightly in size, as the petals are going to get bigger towards the outside of the rose. When you've got enough petals, get the smallest one and start loosely rolling it up. Before it's fully rolled up, add the next petal in and roll it around the first. Carry on like this so the previous petal always overlaps the next one. When you finish, stick it onto your bead. I'll be making a couple more roses for this bead, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, I'm done. I'm happy with how it looks, so I'll put this to the side while I make the next bead. This one is going to have a base shape of leaves, just for a bit of variety. As you can see, I'm just sculpting it as I go. I'm envisioning 2 leaves wrapping around in a sort of spiral, and then the rose will go in the middle. At the minute it sort of looks like a moustache, which is good. Remember to keep flattening the ends out as well, as you don't want the leaves to look too thick. Now I'm happy with the shape, I'm just wrapping it around this small stick. I'm not using a pencil this time because some of my dreads are thinner than usual at the moment, but feel free to use whatever thickness you need for your dreadlocks. Next, use a cocktail stick to add details on the leaves, going over them a few times to make the lines deeper. Now I'm just making a small dent in the middle of the bead, which is where I'll stick the rose. I'm really pleased with how it looks, so now I'll bake it with the other bead. Always bake your clay according to the manufacturer's instructions. I'll put them in for half an hour and then I'll paint them. I had some questions about this last time, so I thought I'd show you how I bake my beads. I have this metal tray. As you can see, I've cut dents in the sides, and when I bake my beads I just rest the pencils on top like that. It's simple, but it works really well. So here they are, all painted and finished. I love how they turned out, I think they look really cool. The roses were so easy to make. It's such a straightforward technique, but I find it so effective. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've been inspired to create some beads of your own. Let me know how it turns out if you do. Thanks for watching.